Chapter 1. Permanence 1. Johnny Cash introduced one great character to the field, the mythic version of himself. It's the Cash we like to prop up as the authentic one, the evil old sanctified soothsayer that Chris Christopherson called a biblical character, some old preacher, one of those dangerous old wild ones, a final prophet in a slow fervor at his pulpit, pistol in one hand, a page of Revelation in the other, taste of blood rising in his throat, sort of a stock character by now, one foot on a ladder to paradise, the other on some shit-sucker's corpse. This version of the man, being made of myth, answers to a list of names, usually to Cash, sometimes to the man in black, rarely to John, never to J.R., now and then to Sue. Hounded by prisons and trains and violent regrets, chased onto posters, he's the lean, fierce wild man of the late 1950s and early 1960s, the somber leviathan of the final decade. But it wasn't until very late in this dream, until the first American Recordings album, that the mythic Cash finally walked forward and backward at once, carrying himself out beyond his time. He had greater celebrity before this final period, bigger albums and better songs, but not the permanence that hung around him at the end. That's the story we are hunting for, his arrival into permanence. American Recordings is the album that did it, and the story is better than true. Chapter 2. Permanence 2. Cash had become a mere beloved mortal between At Folsom Prison and the return, still a preacher of the gospel of beauty, but an elder now with peers. Willie, Waylon, Chris, Merle, Dolly, Possum, Loretta, Tammy, Orbison, Dylan, Perkins, the Killer. And like his peers, the vigor with which he initiated his career was dissipating, half returned already to the splendid percolating void from which it had arrived. What was left was the man himself, making the circuit as a souvenir of his former greatness, the pet of a famous face. Then things went strange again. Rick Rubin went off searching for Cash, Rolling Stones away, and the magazines told us Cash was missing. Apparently it was some impersonator who had been sleeping near June throughout the 80s, playing to quarter-filled theaters in Branson, Missouri, and recording tributes to his own lobotomy, Chicken in Black. It was rumored that the one true Cash was to reappear at a seedy club in Austin, with just his guitar and his balls and his word. And so he did. And then the one true Cash began reappearing again and again, everywhere at once, new song and video in tow. Yes, the killer from Folsom was back, tall and lonesome and black and white, tossing shovels of dirt on Kate Moss's perfumed body. Suddenly it seemed as though the one true Cash had been on the run for decades. The song and video suggested this, traveling the countryside, screwing with impunity, killing young women like a country doctor, facing down the firmament and then stepping up to the devil to chaw his chewing gum. It was a revelation, perhaps, and too much for television. The impersonator Cash beat the retreat. The video for Delia's Gone was cut up and or banned. The motive for this was the same in 1994 as it had been in 1965, when the Grand Ole Opry first kicked Cash out of the Ryman Auditorium. It might have been 30 years later. He may have been high and heavy with self-regard, but there Cash was again, in his glory, smashing all the lights, acting up like he had a prick the size of Jesse James. Chapter 3. Americana 1. Jerry Lee Lewis was a far more carnal beast than Cash. Jimmy Rogers more debonair in his brutality. Hollowed out by inner violence and a fury for the Holy Ghost, Hank Williams loved the world with a finer severity. Waylon Jennings had an equally bitter tragedy, more vices, and was just as splendid a voice. Merle Haggard outwrote and outperformed our hero, grew up in a boxcar and spent his youth in the sort of cell block Cash could only see with popcorn grease on his black knickers and Coca-Cola dripping down his chin, agape at a silver screen. Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton were more deeply marked by the gouging ring of a poor childhood. It's doubtful anyone sounds as suavely vicious as Lonnie Johnson in She's Making Whoopee in Hell Tonight. Gary Stewart scooped up messier spoonfuls of grease on his records. Billy Lee Riley hit the walls of Sun Studios with a wilder sound. The obscure Richard Rabbit Brown, at the end of his James Alley Blues, cuts a more fearsome figure than Cash ever did. Sometimes I think you're just too sweet to die, Brown.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.